I don't even know what I want to talk about. I've just been bored, so I'm just sitting here talking on live, with my sage. Sage is a rescuer, my nigga. Right when you got no tobacco, you got no weed, and you got some sage, you can smoke some sage. It's always good to have sage on hand. I was working on my 12-dimensional mind space models. Well, aspects of the model. Time space, observable space models. And I got a expanding space model, or the expanding, space model as well. Now I look at these things and, they make me, feel or so, accomplished, like I'm accomplishing some shit. Um, I was watching the thing about coding. Oh, and I was watching about the sister from The Secret. I don't know what her name is.
Her name is Lisa Nichols.
Lisa Nichols. Talking about it's never too late and her accomplishments over a period of time. Or her, and the fact that she grew up over here, you know what I'm saying? She grew up between here because this is between 30s and 60s crip. Actually, the jungles is right dead in the smack in the middle. Matter of fact, it's like a trifecta. You got 30s, you got 60s, and then you got 40s. And we kind of sit here. Like, when I was younger, I used to have to plot my motherfucking walk. Like, because I worked at, for a minute, I worked at May Company on Wilshire. And I lived in the jungle at the time. And it was cool because I had my training around the corner at what was the May Company, now it's Macy's. But then I had to go to my actual job, and I had to walk through Gear Hood, Mansfield, because I would walk to work, and taking the bus was just like, what the fuck? Because I had to walk to Gear Hood, I had to walk to Mansfield Hood, I had to actually walk through 30s Hood, I had to walk on the corner of Insane Hood and shit. And these were all gangs that I had problems with during a period of time. So, I mapped out my walk. So, I mean, and I literally did that and that was crazy because you had to do that. You had to map out your walk. If you had any affiliation, and it's the jungles is right here, dead in the smack middle of all that shit. So it's I really had to plot out my walk to get to where the fuck I was going to make certain I didn't fucking walk in the wrong hood for too long. And if I was in the wrong hood, that I knew exactly where I was in relationship to that hood and where I had to go. You don't really have to do that anymore. I don't have to do that anymore. Well, at least on the west side, on the east side, it might behoove me to, plot my course more accurately. But I think about that shit, and that overcoming perseverance or whatever, or persevering, the perseverance to overcome obstacles, I guess. And that, positive participation, man, at the end of the day, I mean, because he was talking about loving self. And at the end of the day, you have to realize that no one's going to fully, really, truly love you until you love yourself. And a lot of people talk about persuading people from, seeking love until they can then first love themselves. And I think that's kind of really real. You can't really fully love anyone or expect anyone to love you if you can't love yourself. You know what I'm saying? It's self-realization. That's a part of self-realization. A knowledge of self, and from a knowledge, an awareness of self, there stems the realization. Realization is the last stage of awareness, or specifically self-awareness. Becoming aware of self, truly aware of self, is the realization of self. When you start, first you're conscious. We're conscious beings. We're all conscious of that we are this individual, but we're not really conscious of self. You know what I'm saying? I remember me and Joe used to talk about that, like the out of body experiences, and that you have these moments of out of body experience where you're just like, dude, that's me. And I don't know how many people have that or don't have that, but that is a moment of realization. Now, what you do with that moment of realization determines on how definitive it is, and how many of them that you experience in those moments where you just like outside of yourself and realize, wow, that's me. I don't know if you experience those moments, but I have those moments where I was like, why are you hiding weed from me, man?
What happened?
Are you hiding weed from me?
I happen to have a roach in my hand right now.
Yeah, yeah.
That's all you need to know.
See, she is hiding weed from me. She does shit like that. I just, come on, man. It's okay.
Couldn't smoke it all at once. He needs to learn some discipline. And he said himself, he don't need to depend on THC for his serotonin levels.
Yeah, anyway. I said I don't need to entirely depend upon THC. But having some THC.
Well, here's some right here.
Yeah, whatever.
And, niggas got tooth pain. So I need to smoke every single day.
Whatever.
You didn't want to go to Hollywood, so.
She stole weed while I was asleep or whatever.
I never stole weed. I rolled myself joints. And I kept this roach shit.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, like I was saying, what was I saying? Because I entirely distracted from what the fuck I was saying before.
Out of body experiences.
Out of body experiences. What about out of body experiences? Something about.
Oh fuck. Oh fuck. Oh fuck.
Oh, the moment, that moment. Oh, see, look at you burning shit. See,
I didn't burn anything.
that's the moment when you self-realization. Because there's this moment, and that's more of self-awareness, awareness of self. And awareness of self comes from a greater knowing of self. So you kind of get to know yourself by way, or become conscious of self in the process of knowing, or the limited, unconscious process of knowing self by your life experiences. And that's like the pseudo, authentic, like, because you're confronted with certain challenges in your life. And those are, the experiences. Each day is a challenge. Getting up in the morning is a motherfucking challenge. You know what I'm saying? That you're faced with, and how you confront those challenges in a day determines the person that you are, and you become more conscious of that person as a result of your interactions and how you respond to those interactions. And either you come to like fucking love that person, or like that person,
or hate that person,
or hate that person. And that's repression, where you start to hide from that person, which you can't truly hide from. That's the basic one. That's where you can't deal with the basic loneliness, and that fosters fucking narcissism, where you need constant reinforcement from outside of yourself in order to find some type of comfortability with self, and you reject knowing self in those moments. So that self-reflection, that's what meditation is. So meditation is so important, not in this like calming state, making you like this, whatever the fuck they think Zen is.
There's no such thing as Zen.
Yeah, it really isn't.
It's just a word.
It's just a word. But coming to terms with who you are as a person, that's really what meditation is about. It's coming to terms with who you are as a person. It's self-realization. Not just self-awareness or self-knowing, but self-realization, the realization that you are this self, and that it is incumbent upon you to be comfortable with that self, to be adjusted with that self. Like, I can't change the experiences that resulted in me being me, but I can change my perception of those incidents that resulted in being me. That's getting past the trauma. And all of us have experienced some type of trauma in the development of the person that we are, to some degree. This world is full of troubles. So in the world you haven't experienced some type of trauma in the development of the person that you are today. So the realization is the acceptance of self. It's self-acceptance. It's beyond just, knowledge of self. It's the acceptance of self. realization is the acceptance of self. Self-realization is what allows one to not extend, but to alleviate the entanglement of karma, or to elevate above the entanglement of karma. That's self-realization. That's the fulfillment of 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 suffering. It's the alleviation of. It's the fulfillment of desire and alleviation of suffering. And even in that self-realization, you realize that suffering is an ongoing thing. That's the part of self-realization. That suffering is always an ongoing thing. But the awareness that comes from, or the state of bliss, true bliss that comes from self-awareness, is more long term. Is a more long term alleviation of suffering, because it's the more long term desire. It's the more long term, or what I'm saying, versus or long term desire. Did I say long term?
Yeah.
Yeah, long term desire. It's the long term goal. In relationship to the short term goal, is the achievement of, and what we call enlightenment, which is just self realization. And self realization is just a comfortability with self, getting past the entanglement of karma, the Maya. And that, and you can't really extend, that's like where the material is no longer the source, the subjective is no longer the source for happiness, where the objective becomes the source of happiness.
Oh shit.
Oh shit, that's motherfucker. Yeah, now we're talking. That's enlightenment. That's the entanglement of Maya, because Maya is the material. Because you can't really get past your karma. You can't.
Ashes on the ground.
I see, babe. Shit. You can't really get out of karma, or even Maya. It's just the entanglement, the material aspect of it, the local aspect of the Maya representation, or the karmic manifestation, is the only thing you can get past. Karma is still there. It's the lifelong. Again, it's the high entropy, low entropy state, because it's entanglement. Low entropy is entanglement. High entropy is entanglement. But the homeostasis between high entropy and low entropy is detanglement, or what is it? Untanglement, or untangling, or whatever the fuck it is you do. Detangling. It's a detangling. Like hair. Okay, detangling. Because it's not either, because again, high entropy or low entropy are not evil or good. High entropy can be just as good as low entropy, but it's the stagnation in either high entropy or low entropy. Choosing one state over the other state is, instead of this homeostasis, this equilibrium, this balance. So again, narcissism, negativity, or negative participation, objective negative participation, are the things that we consider. And narcissism is kind of the mind state of negative participation. It's a byproduct of negative participation, because it's the mind frame that stems from negative participation. Objective negative participation, not subjective negative participation versus positive participation. And we kind of like put that in terms, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's great, because it's like every single time I talk about this shit, it's like I get it more into like perspective, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, oh wow, 12-dimensional mind space in relationship to positive participation, you know what I'm saying? And the laws that govern human agency, and how those laws, it's really Kabbalah, and I see it more and more so, that that 12-dimensional mind space is, Chris Gnosticism, you know what I'm saying, in itself has a Kabbalic model, a space-time Kabbalic model that can be utilized, for psychological purposes, and for the purposes of realistically viewing your interpersonal relationships and what is healthy or unhealthy in relationship to an interpersonal relationship. What the fuck is this? Oh, it's the Kabbalah. Alif Bayib Gamil, Alif He Arha.
I borrowed, or somebody gave me a notebook, and that was in the notebook.
Yeah, you're missing. We're missing